Real quick before we get into the review, just gotta thank all the people over on Patreon, because without the support, all this upgraded content that you guys been seeing, from the better editing to the thumbnail art, none of that stuff will be made possible without the patrons. If you join the Patreon, you obviously get access to the Patreon only Discord server. If you're in the $5 tier, every 3 months we do a really cool anime and manga haul where there's a lot of good goodies in that one. Patrons also get sneak peeks at videos before they come out, in some cases months in advance. In a little while, we're going to be doing Patreon exclusive videos that discuss content that I can't talk about here on YouTube because of YouTube's broken copyright system. Series like ReZero will be getting covered, so make sure to join the Patreon if any of that stuff interests you. But with that being said, let's get into today's video. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another review for Boruto Naruto Next Generations, episode 256. And now that episode 256 done in the books, man, we got a lot to talk about. This was actually a better episode than I had my mind kind of prepared to actually go into. Giving this episode credit, I thought this is going to be a total snooze fest, but this one actually ended up being a little bit more enjoyable than I actually expected. I don't know if this is because I came in with very low expectations or because the opening to the brand new arc of the series has confirmed something that I reported on about a week ago, which is that we're going to be getting a code actuation arc towards the end of the year, and towards the beginning of next year we'll be going into the current manga arc in the anime. So in 2023 we'll be getting the current manga arc. I recommend checking out that video if you have not and you want more details. I will be giving you guys a full Easter egg breakdown because there are quite a few Easter eggs in the opening. That will probably be coming out on Wednesday or Thursday this week because I'm currently out of town right now. So I will definitely get that video to you guys, so make sure to keep notifications enabled. That way you can get the full breakdown on this in top 10 style, the same way I did when we had the Ishiki arc opening. So getting into the actual episode itself, I have to say I like the fact that the way that the episode started out was you had Inojin and you had Cho-Cho. They're sitting there with Boruto, they're sitting there with Sarada, and they're talking about how the events of the last arc, they were very surprised that nobody on their team came back injured, and that's a little bit of foreshadowing for, again, the whole Kawaki and Team 7 issue, which you should have picked up on in the opening to the anime with the brand new opening. But I did like seeing that little bit of information there because it just kind of shows like Sarada is acknowledging she still needs work as a team leader, and we as the audience know that she lost Kawaki during this last arc. So I like seeing that bit, and what you get here is also this moment where you have Boruto say, well, it's all thanks to Sarada that we were able to come home safe, but what about you guys? How come you guys aren't trying to take on more missions even though Shikadai's out? And when Inojin says like there's only so much that we can do as Ganin when our tuning is out, that goes back to something that I told you guys when they were doing the tuning exams, which is, but essentially once somebody makes tuning, they can and they will be assigned onto missions with other tuning, with other jonin, and when they're on missions with Ganin, they're going to be the ones calling the shots. But Team 10 being given the opportunity to go out on their own individual mission, that was pretty huge. So the mission that they have was they were given the opportunity to hunt down a former Rogue Shinobi from the Hidden Cloud Village, and that's a really big deal right there. But what you see is that for a moment they begin to doubt themselves and like, well, can we really do this without our tuning on the team? And that's when Shikadai looks over and Shikadai's like, you guys are being such a drag, just take the damn mission. And I kind of like that right there because it just shows Shikadai from a leadership perspective. He's a lot like his father. He hates getting his hands dirty, but he's not above getting his hands dirty. And the way he did so in this instance here is to kind of build up his teammates and let them know, like, I'm not the reason why you guys have the potential to be special. It's because of you guys. Take this mission and prove everybody right here. And I like that we saw that in hilarious fashion. Essentially, Cho-Cho and Inojin, the two useless members of their team, are following after this shopkeeper, and my man essentially understands what it means to be walking while black inside the Hidden Leaf Village, because Cho-Cho and Inojin, they corner him, they slam him onto the ground, they go through his backpack, they didn't read this man as Miranda rights, but all of a sudden this man thought that he wasn't in Konoha, he thought he was inside the United States and his Fourth Amendment rights was taken, because they going all through his backpack, taking all his information, got him slammed on the ground, and all of a sudden this man is like, yo, I was just a ramen shopkeeper. Those are ramen items right there. They find a knife in there. They ask them all types of questions. And then that's when one of the guys from the Yamanaka clan shows up and he says, like, wait a second, like, we had faulty intel. It turns out that this guy was actually pardoned by the Land of Lightning. He's essentially a Konoha citizen now, and because Cho-Cho and Inojin no longer have to actually arrest him and have him handed back over to Hidden Cloud Village, they help him with his mission to create the best ramen ever. And the ramen itself actually ends up being symbolic for the status of Team 10, and just how the ramen in the episode was essentially missing something and it didn't have that full taste and it wasn't complete. Essentially Team 10's on the same thing, where the missing item out of Team 10's dynamic was essentially that Cho-Cho and Inojin didn't actually understand their worth as being part of the team. So I thought that was a clever bit of writing right there. It's right there in your face, but at the same time it's done well enough that even if you're the most casual viewer and you're not paying attention to the narrative, you should be able to pick up on that. So I did like seeing that right there. And what I'll also say is that when they're walking with them and they're going back to his ramen stand, they run into the bandits from another village that are trying to steal the weapon tech data that Konoha has. And Kumano Shingo, the ramen shopkeeper that Cho-Cho and Inojin are walking with, keeps his ingredients in some type of a bamboo case. And essentially the people that Shikadai was chasing after, they also have the ninja tech data that they stole inside of a bamboo case. So essentially it becomes one of those situations where they bump into each other, the crooks grab the wrong item, and now Cho-Cho and Inojin suddenly have the scientific ninja weapon tech data. So if you're wondering by chance, why is it that these crooks went out of the way to steal Konoha's scientific ninja weapon tech data, this goes back to something earlier on Boruto. So if you forgot because it's been 256 episodes, or you did not read the individual data jackets that are put into the Boruto manga, essentially Konoha's weapon tech advancement is well beyond all the other villages and all the other villages on the continent. The only people that are ahead of Konoha is actually Kar, in particular Amato, with all the science that he's done. And that's simply because Amato has done a type of crowdsourcing in the sense that Kar has their outers go into all these ninja villages and they procure all the information, all the data that the various villages are doing. And essentially now that Amato has everybody's information, that's how Amato was able to make the best ninja tech information, because he had all the blueprints there for him. So what you see here is that there are other villages on the continent that are not part of the Shinobi Union that want to gain the scientific data that Konoha has. So I like that they kind of brought back that plot point right there. And the rest of the episode is basically Cho-Cho and Inojin building up this dude's sense of worth and sense of credit and letting him know, like, hey, it's okay if you don't have the perfect ramen in the world. That's fine, my man. We're gonna help you get there. And he shares this heartwarming story about how when he was a rogue shinobi and he was in hiding, essentially Ichiraku would allow him to eat his ramen at a stand for free, which that should, if you're a longtime viewer, remind you of videos that I did on Kryptonian Saiyan, as well as here on Naruto Explained, talking about how Ichiraku ramen actually ended up taking a stand against the villagers that were treating Naruto badly at the cost of the ramen shop actually being shut down because people are getting pissed off. He was feeding a child toddler Naruto when Naruto was first found out to be the Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tails. I'll leave those videos at the end credits of this video here so you can check that out. But what I like though is that essentially we see more of those good deeds from Ichiraku, and in a very poetic way, after they go through and they have their interaction with the bandits, and we find out that Shikadai and his team, they've cornered the bandits, and Inojin and Cho-Cho, they essentially found the bandits by a freak accident because the bandits had kidnapped this shopkeeper, Shingo Kumano. Essentially, it becomes a 5 versus 3 scenario where Cho-Cho's team and Shikadai's team, they jump the bandits that are inside of the hideout. They are able to secure Shingo Kumano. They're able to capture the rest of those bandits, and then Shikadai realizes, wait a second, they don't have the data we're looking for, and the whole time Cho-Cho had the data. And when they finally are tasting the ramen, after they had all these brief moments in the episode where they're doing shinobi rock climbing and they're getting all these rare ingredients that only a shinobi will be able to actually get, and the guy reveals, like, I can't do ninjutsu or taijutsu, but you know, he still has that shinobi spirit. He's weaving hand signs when he's cooking, and he's taking it very seriously. It's a whole comedic effect essentially. But after all of that trials and tribulations, the man finally gets the idea to make his ramen stand out, because there's a undercover ramen specialist coming into the village, which more than likely that's probably Naruto. Who else is going to be able to effectively judge the ramen in his village? Naruto probably used like a transformation jutsu or something, but essentially he watches Cho-Cho eating a bag of chips, and that's when he realizes he can use different flavored chips to give his ramen that extra punch to it, because the chips will make the ramen crunchier, and the flavor and the different salts inside of the chips will blend in with his ramen, and that will actually make it taste better and make it stand out. And much to his credit, in a very poetic way, the man who Ichiraku had brought in and allowed to live off of ramen until he could get on his feet, the man becomes so successful with his shop because of the ramen recipe that he was able to create thanks to Team 10, that now, much like how Ichiraku, when he first opened up his shop, if you go back to, I believe, Naruto Shippuden movie 4, that should be the Lost Tower that has like the Minato flashback and everything. You see Ichiraku's stand open up for the first time, much like how in that movie right there was a line going around the block. There's a line going around the entire village for this man's shop here. So very poetic to kind of see that come full circle. But I mean, again, this is just a wholesome episode. Again, I'm very, very surprised at how much I actually enjoyed the episode itself, because I had very low expectations. So what I want to know from you guys is, how do you guys feel about Team 10 and Kumano Shingo's ramen recipe essentially being symbolic to one another? Do you think that was a good writing anchor by the writers of this episode, or do you think they could have came up with a stronger anchor? Which, for reference, an anchor is essentially a narrative point that is holding down everything. But while you think that over, consider watching these other videos you see on the screen right now.